Hey everyone, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network. Today we're going to talk about a local battle against 5G, specifically a local battle against a cell tower on top of an elementary school, which is part of the push towards the 5G network. We're going to get into all those details and more, but first I want to remind you guys to bookmark my website, theconsciousresistance.com. We recently have sent out an email reminding everybody that this website has been running for 10 years plus now. I launched it in late 2012 to give myself a voice, a place to speak my own messages and my own ideas, and to explore everything from spirituality to liberty to the paranormal to political corruption and, of course, to solutions, most importantly. And we've been broadcasting now for 10 years as a network with myself and numerous other contributors over the years. And we only have been able to do this because of you, because of your support. So I want to remind anybody who does care about my work to visit theconsciousresistance.com/invest, where you can find all the ways you can contribute to us via crypto, via sending cash in the mail to our P.O. box. You can also support at buymeacoffee.com/Derrick Broze. You can support on Odyssey now. You can support via derrickbroze.substack.com. There's so many ways to support me, and I am not paid for the vast majority of the work I do here. I get paid for writing articles for The Last American Vagabond, but beyond that, I 100% depend on your support. So please consider supporting if you can this week. Now, if you scroll down a little bit to the middle of the website, you can see how we have spent a lot of time and energy arranging this in an easy way for you to explore all the different topics I have. Not all of them, this is only some of them. There's still things I see that are missing, but a lot of the topics I've explored over the last decade plus. And you can see right here we have 5G technology. I want to encourage you to click on that tab, go ahead and dive in, and you can see the dozens and dozens of reports I've produced over the last decade, specifically my documentary, which came out in early 2020, The 5G Trojan Horse. And I encourage you to watch that. It's about an hour and a half long, and it explores my fight against 5G in Houston, which I started investigating in August 2018 and then started visiting City Council in October 2018. You can go through here and see all the different research I've done, interviews with experts like Arthur Firstenberg, Dr. Martin Paul, Thea Scarata from the Environmental Health Trust. You can, again, see my local news interviews going on Houston News talking about 5G. You can see me confronting FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr about this 2 times in a row, questioning Ted Cruz, and so much here. So I encourage you to go back and look into this if you are not familiar with this topic, because what I'm noticing is the topic is getting some attention right now, namely because it has been mentioned, Wi-Fi, EMFs have been mentioned in recent interviews done by Democratic presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on Joe Rogan, and then I also saw that he mentioned it on the News Nation town hall that he did. Now, unfortunately, despite the fact that Mr. Kennedy's website, Children's Health Defense, does some great work on this, he doesn't appear to be as versed in it as I believe he should be if he's going to mention it. I think it's probably better if he doesn't even mention it at all, if he can't really explain it, because in the Joe Rogan interview, he started to get into Wi-Fi, and Joe was like, "What are you talking about? Wi-Fi? Wi-Fi is dangerous." And Mr. Kennedy didn't really have the facts or the stats or the data with him, which is fine. I understand. But I think it's better if he not mention it, because then, of course, following that interview, we've seen a number of mainstream articles claiming that this is all conspiracy theory. There's nothing to it. It's just this crazy old Kennedy at it again, when nothing could be further from the truth. So my humble advice, in case this makes its way to him, is that if you're going to bring up the Wi-Fi concern, the EMF concern, be ready to mention Dr. Martin Paul and some of the other people, because he's mentioning things like the blood-brain barrier, and he's got some things right. I think he's explaining some things wrong. I'm probably going to do a whole nother video on that, but I want, that being mentioned in the news recently, it got me thinking again about how much work I've done on 5G over the last 5 years. And I decided, you know what, I used to regularly search 5G lawsuits, 5G health concerns, and just do a little search to see what's going on out there. And I decided to do that. And wouldn't you know, I found that there is another part of the US where local people, citizens, are standing up and fighting back against 5G towers. And this is in Wyandotte, I believe I'm saying it correctly. Excuse me if I've got a Texas accent. Wyandotte County in Michigan. Excuse me, Wayne County and Wyandotte. The county is Wayne County. And these parents have come together to not only express their concerns about the cell phone tower, the 5G tower at this elementary school, placed literally on top of the school. I'll show you a picture here in a moment. But they are organizing. They filed a lawsuit now. We're going to get into that. And I have reached out to Josh Castmore, who is the lawyer who is representing them. He's also a parent of children that attend these schools, I believe. And we're going to see if we can, if I hear back from him before I release this report, we will include his comments. If not, maybe we can catch up in the future, because I want to follow this story. For one, I want you to know that these stories are important, because you're going to see here, there's some local Detroit news reporting on this, but beyond this, it's not getting major coverage, right? It's not getting coverage on CNN or Fox National or anything like that. And I think that's unfortunate, because most people, when they hear about these kinds of stories involving 5G, they don't know about these kind of legal battles that are going on around the country. They don't know that parents are protesting and marching and coming to school board meetings. And, there's a whole lot we're about to go into this. And most people don't hear about this. They don't know about this. So when they hear on Joe Rogan, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. say something about 5G or cell towers not being good, they're just like, what are you talking about? That sounds crazy, because clearly we're all using cell phones and nobody would have let us use these if they're not good for us, right? 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 Obviously, there's some there's some discrepancies there, but it's important that people recognize that these kinds of situations are taking place, that there's multiple lawsuits taking place across the United States involving 5G towers. There's instances like this where local residents are standing up and fighting back. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to start with March. Now, I know this fight has been going on longer than March of this year, but we're going to start there in March. It says, the last time Wyandotte schools held a meeting about the cell tower at Washington Elementary School, police had to send everyone home early. The crowd turned angry when people who wanted to speak about the tower were told to write their comments on note cards. Tuesday's March 14th board meeting was likely to be well attended. I believe it was. And at issue here is a tower on elementary school property. There's also a generator near the playground where the school kids play, and there are 0 yard signs, and parents want the cell tower gone. It was supposed to be a question and answer session with superintendents and with T-Mobile. The schools entered into a deal with the cell company for a 5G cell tower and equipment to be built at the school. So this was the beginning. Again, the school themselves entered into a deal with T-Mobile, and they did not consult the parents. They did not send out, as far as I can tell in my research, again, I look forward to talking with Josh Castmore and anybody else and being corrected. But as far as I can tell, they did not notify the parents. The parents tried to get information, and they were not given any information. The police were called, and the meeting was shut down. Now, again, Josh Castmore, he's the lawyer representing them. He has daughters going to the school. And in this article from March, it says, quote, "We expect to have a really good turnout tonight for parents who are concerned about this. It's kind of our chance to be heard. We weren't heard, obviously, 5 years ago, and we weren't given the opportunity to be heard." So this has been going on for a while. And now, for those who don't know a little bit of background, I'll just explain this before we go further. Again, in my research on 5G, I've found that the system is rigged against us. I'm glad that Josh Castmore, as a lawyer, is taking this fight on, because there's a lot of lawyers who are not willing to, because of multiple things. You have the 1996 Telecommunications Act, which was passed in the late 90s, obviously, and set the regulations for EMF exposure. And according to that 1996 Telecommunications Act, cell phone radiation is safe, and the levels they've set it at have not been adjusted in over 20 years. And obviously, we're now surrounded by everything from smart homes, smart TVs, 3G, 4G, 5G, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, etc. We're being exposed in ways that never could have imagined in 1996. So those levels need to be updated. But even at those levels that were established in 1996, even below those levels, we have data that shows harm to humans. There's studies, as I cover in the documentary, about wildlife affecting the bees, the birds, the worms, and of course human health. So even at the levels set in 1996, there are still health concerns at those levels. But the big kicker is that with the 1996 Telecommunications Act, the U.S. government believes that they have legal standing to prevent local bodies, municipalities, city councils, etc., from being able to regulate the towers in their own way. So they've pretty much written it into the law that you cannot fight these towers based on health concerns, definitely not health concerns, but say privacy concerns, etc. What I've seen, and again, I'm happy to be corrected, that it appears that you can only complain based on aesthetic reasons. You can say the tower looks ugly, and so turn it into a palm tree or something like that, or turn it into a pine tree, whatever those kind of things they do, where so they change its aesthetic look. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can fight it based on health concerns. This is why I'm interested to see how this case evolves. Now, and I'm trying to scroll to show you something here. Now, you can go ahead and see that when I covered this during the Trump era, you can see this video I did back in probably 2020. Let's see, June 18th, 2019. New FCC rule change eliminates local control of 5G rollout. And so, in addition to the 1996 Telecommunications Act, which already limited local power, you have the 2019 rule change. FCC's 5G's deployment push usurps local control. This is coming from some reporting I did back then. And so my point here is that the deck is stacked against the people. Yes, you might have concerns about health related to 5G towers and things of that sort, but you really do have limited options. Again, you have to file lawsuits, but in the situations I've seen is that most municipalities are not willing to go to court. So I just wanted to say that. Let's go ahead and get back into the story at hand with this Washington elementary school up in Michigan. They've been fighting it for, I think, years now, but I found these articles from March 2023, and we're going to bring it up to where they're at currently. So let's check this out. Superintendent resigns. This is back in April amid cell tower backlash. Wyandotte Public Schools superintendent resigned Wednesday after 9 years leading the district amid backlash over the lease of a T-Mobile 5G tower at Washington Elementary School. Catherine Cost's resignation was announced after the Board of Education returned from a closed session during a special board meeting Wednesday evening. Many parents in the Downriver community argue that cellular technology threatens the health of the student, and the issue has dominated meetings and online discussions for some time. Board President Cindy Kinney and others did not provide details about what led to the departure, which was immediate. Catherine Cost was not at the meeting. She did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Kinney, president of the board, told Detroit News that the board is exploring steps to replace her but did not elaborate. Some of the dozens of people who filled the meeting applauded after the board unanimously voted to accept the resignation of Cost, who was hired in March 2014. Joshua Cassmore, again, Josh is quoted a lot. He's the attorney. I think tonight was a big step in the right direction. Another parent who objects to the tower said that Cost, who resigned, was not willing to negotiate. So this is positive. I think this is just showing that the parents are having an impact and that the president, the superintendent who made the deal with T-Mobile, which is not looked on positively by parents, was basically forced to resign or chose to resign rather than answer questions. And then this brings us to just the last month, June 2nd. Judge says that the school cannot turn on the controversial 5G tower while lawsuit proceeds. Because as I mentioned, a lawsuit has been filed. We're going to pull up the court documents in just a second. So the school now cannot turn on the 5G tower on top of Washington Elementary School. A Wayne County Circuit judge ruled on Friday earlier in June, so about 30 days ago. Wayne County Circuit Judge Adol Harb's decision came after the tower opponents filed a lawsuit that says that adverse health effects come from the radio frequency waves from the tower. Harb granted the requested restraining order because the plaintiffs, our residents, Catherine Teets, Lisa Beck, Melissa Warrer, are likely to succeed in the lawsuit and because they will suffer, quote, irreparable harm and loss if the district proceeds with the communication facility. The residents sued the school district, city, Board of Education, city council, Mayor Robert Gisana, T-Mobile, former superintendent Catherine Cost, and more than a dozen other current and former city and district employees. And just for reference, here's the picture of it. I hope everybody can see this on screen. You can even see children playing right there. This is a smokestack, and there's all the infrastructure. Those panels right there are part of the small cell 5G infrastructure. But the judge ruled 30 days ago they cannot turn this tower on. The lawsuit says that T-Mobile hornswoggled, I love that word, the school district and duped the city engineer into issuing the district an illegal building permit and certificate of occupancy to build a wireless communications facility on top of Washington Elementary School. Josh Castmore, resident and the plaintiff's attorney, criticized the district and the city in the lawsuit for taking this deal and argued that the permit is illegal because the city's zoning ordinance forbids wireless communications from being located in residential zoning districts except for municipally owned or controlled properties. Now, again, this might give them a way out that certain cities don't have, because as I mentioned, you have the 1996 Telecommunications Act and then this 2019 rule change by the FCC, which really limits local power and what you can do to fight the placement of these towers. But it seems like in the case of this particular area, they already have zoning ordinances in place which forbid them from installing wireless communications facilities in residential zoning districts. So the local zoning ordinance could give them some way out. But again, I know the FCC, the T-Mobile is going to try to argue that the Telecommunications Act allows them to do this. Instead of listening to residents, Joshua Castmore says in his complaint that elected officials, quote, cowardly lashed back at residents and at the other branch of government. Faced with chicken-hearted and lily-livered elected and appointed city and school district officials who will not enforce the law and are afraid to stand up to a foreign government-owned corporate bully, the good citizens have no choice but to choose self-help. Unless enjoined by this court, T-Mobile will begin transmitting noxious, dangerous wireless radiation from the antennas atop the Washington Elementary School all day, every day, at a site where young children study and play during the most important developmental years. And I think that's an important point. So they've asked the judge to shut down the tower, remove it, but the judge did grant a temporary restraining order, which is the first step, and this will now continue in Wayne County Circuit Court to determine if the wireless facility can proceed. And they have the interim superintendent saying they're aware of the lawsuit. And yeah, so that was 30 days ago. Now, I want to show you some stuff I found on Twitter too. Just a little clip. This is back in March, showing you the amount of support these parents had. Show you some of the protests. All right, so you can see they have a lot of support going on at these protests. And just by searching Wyandotte and 5G, I found like a lot of videos. You can see one of their local Michigan reps, Jim DeSana, speaking up and on the placement of the tower. So they're getting some coverage, and there's again another picture of the towers on the smokestack right here, the cell sites. So they're getting coverage. It's getting attention. Congrats to those who are fighting this fight. You are getting attention. Do not give up. Now let's continue on. Again, this is another one. Parents filed lawsuit opposing cell tower in Washington Elementary, reported in early June. Judge grants temporary restraining order. Now, we're getting more recent. I want to show you this. I thought this was interesting because we had the superintendent resign voluntarily back in, a couple months ago. And then just recently, as just a week ago, one of the school board members resigns again. So we're going to let this gentleman speak for himself. This was Frank Tarnowski. He gave a letter to his fellow trustees, board members, and said that questionable decisions were made regarding a cell phone tower on Washington Elementary School. And here's another local report. School board member resigns following 5G antenna controversy. So let's check this report out.
Tonight, for months, parents and residents have been outraged over that 5G antenna that's been on top of Washington Elementary School.
Now there's more fallout after a school board member recently decided to resign over the issue. Our Terrell Bailey brings us up to speed from Wyandotte.
The back and forth over a 5G antenna is in the hands of the courts. Former Wyandotte school board member Frank Tarnowski says he was tired of being the only one to speak up against that antenna.
Basically, in their brief, they stated that the tower wasn't harmful to children. There was no studies that would prove it, that the board did nothing wrong, and it was basically a snapshot from T-Mobile. And I didn't agree with it.
Parents of students at Washington Elementary have pressed city leaders to take this T-Mobile antenna down. Tarnowski sat on the board for less than a year. As a former parent of a Washington student, he agrees the antenna should go.
They have let T-Mobile speak the narrative on this tower. Since they signed the contract,
The district and T-Mobile entered an agreement in 2018. Coronavirus delays halted the installation. The antenna is supposed to be activated this summer. Recently, parents filed a lawsuit against T-Mobile and a list of city officials. Since then, a judge temporarily paused the activation.
we had a decision to void this contract, and we didn't.
In the deal, the district is set to receive $1,000 per month. Tarnowski believes the school board that initially approved the deal didn't have the community's best interests.
Was it immoral? Was it an ethical? Did anybody take in consideration the children? You could fault that as saying no.
Parents for months have threatened to remove their children from the school. Its impact, Tarnowski says, is already being felt.
The numbers are already down for the kindergarten class next year. What's going to happen continuously? Are we going to lose more students?
Now he believes the only way to fight this fight is by heading to Lansing. Tarnowski recently filed to represent Michigan's 27th district, a seat currently held by Jamie Churches. Earlier this month, Churches said she was in discussions with T-Mobile to move the antenna elsewhere. As for the antenna, T-Mobile filed to move the case to federal court. The attorneys representing the parents who sued tells me a judge recently sent that case back to the state. With only 2 days remaining on that restraining order, only time will tell what's next for this antenna. Reporting in Wayne County.
So there you go. And I thought that was an important detail that the T-Mobile tried to send the case to federal court. It got sent back. And we're going to see where it goes from here. I mean, this is, I'm glad that it's getting some local coverage, but this is really, I just have to give it up to all the parents, all the people who are standing up and fighting. And I'll show you, I found this group here on Facebook, Wyandotte Parents and Community for Responsible Cell Tower Placement. If you want to join, feel free to go join. It looks like they've got a lot going on. You guys are doing amazing work. Thank you to all the parents out there who are fighting. I wish we had this much support out here in Houston, Texas. It's crazy. In a big city like this, we can't get enough people to come together and fight these towers. And there is a lot more corruption going on in our big city. But thank you to all the parents who are standing up and fighting. Now, I want to show you, this is a copy of the court order from, this is filed on Environmental Health Trust website. You can see State of Michigan in the Circuit Court for the County of Wayne. The women, Catherine Teets, Lisa Beck, Melissa Warr versus the school district, the city, the school board, the city council, the mayor, T-Mobile, the former superintendent, and a lot of other people are being, they're being not charged, but they're coming after them. The parents are coming after them. And again, temporary restraining order in order to show cause. This was just issued 30 days ago. So where it's at now, I'm hoping to get some updates. I know the parents are, still fighting this and trying to prevent this tower from being turned on this summer. Here's some more from Justia dockets and filings. You can see, just so you know, this is a legit case being fought right now by these parents. And again, hats off to everybody in Wyandotte County and parents of Washington Elementary School children for fighting this. And then I'll just mention, this is Joshua Castmore Law, who I reached out to, and I will update this report if I get a comment from him. And just thank you, Josh, for doing the work you're doing. I know you're a parent, so you care deeply about this. And I want to mention one other topic. This is a different case, unrelated. Let's switch gears here. Hollywood stars Mel Gibson and Ed Harris send letters to City of Malibu against 5G in neighborhoods. So this is in Malibu City Council, which is California. It's a very rich, wealthy neighborhood. But there are residents there trying to fight 5G towers that are very close to their homes. And they got the support of some of their wealthy celebrity neighbors, Mel Gibson and Ed Harris, as you can see here, who wrote letters. And the letters are listed here. You can read them for yourself if you like. Here, I'll just show you one real quick. And I will put this in the show notes. Mel Gibson, right there. And I will note that they blacked out one of these publicly released documents had his address and stuff here. So thankfully they've got to removing that, because I'm sure he doesn't want people visiting him at home. But Mel Gibson here is saying, like, I own property located near 2 planned wireless facilities. He's speaking out, trying to give his voice to this fight. And so the reason I share that, in addition to the Wyandotte County fight, is because, as I mentioned earlier, guys, these situations are happening. You're just not hearing about them. I've been trying to fight this, and in Houston for a number of years. I have a report here. New Hampshire report challenges safety of 5G. We found other cities. There's dozens of lawsuits in Texas that have been going on. There are people in Palm Beach trying to fight it. Yeah, parts of Israel even trying to fight it. Louisiana became the first state to call for a study on health impacts of 5G a couple years ago. So we should probably look into that. So these cases are happening. You're just not hearing about them. And this is an important one. Again, I wrote this article years ago. California mayor admits local government has lost control of 5G rollout, that it's basically in the hands of the big telecoms. Here I am questioning Houston's mayor, Sylvester Turner, who is on his way out. This gentleman was given the 5G Champion Award by the wireless industry for his job rolling out 5G in the city of Houston. Here is all the way back in October 2018, me questioning the CEO of Verizon about 5G safety, questioning the mayor of Houston, and I've just been going to city council. I've been reporting on this. I've been on local news trying to fight this fight for a while. And I'm just really, I guess I feel like I feel re-energized to see some people fighting this and some parents out there doing the good work that needs to be done. So thank you again to all the parents out there fighting. If you're new to this topic and you want to get caught up, check out my 5G technology section on theconsciousresistance.com. It'll help get you caught up with everything from the health concerns, privacy concerns, local power being stripped away, just all of it. There's multiple angles to take this. So, and I know some people are skeptical. I often hear people skeptical of like, I could just see, even among friends, people who believe that talking about 5G or EMFs or cell phones is a conspiracy theory. That's just the same way that that Robert F. Kennedy is treated whenever he's talking about this. And I hope that more people will dive into this and see realistically that there are problems here and it needs to be exposed. So please, if you haven't seen my documentary, go watch the 5G Trojan Horse. Visit theconsciousresistance.com to find out more. And if you can support us, again, theconsciousresistance.com/invest. I'm on Substack. I'm on Buy Me a Coffee. I'm on Odyssey. Those are all places you can donate and support me monthly. And then, of course, you can send cash to our P.O. box, or you can donate cryptocurrency. Very much appreciate you guys. I hope this has been informative and empowering. Until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace, my friends.